If you had sushi for Valentine's Day this year, you are with the majority of people in the US. But how did it come to be that way? Sushi originated as a way to preserve fish in either Southeast Asia or China. People would ferment the fish for months in rice and then throw the rice out. As Buddhism spread across Asia and into Japan, a lot of culinary techniques went with it. And so the first version of sushi made its way to Japan in about the 8th century. In the 17th and 18th centuries, things started to change. First, people began eating sushi with the rice, and also the first versions of sushi rice with seasoned rice vinegar came to be. Then in the early 19th century, a man by the name of Hanya Yohei became the first person to make sushi the way that we know it now, or at least the first person to market it. Sushi at that time was a common street food, sold in stalls and meant for something on the go. Yohei realized serving the sushi with raw fish meant that he could cut down on the time that it took to prepare it. And this is when sushi really started to take off and spread. At the same time, in the late 1800s, the Edo period, which was a period of isolation in Japan, ended. And so a lot more foreign influence came into the country, and a lot of people outside of Japan in the 1900s became enamored with Japanese culture. But the majority of Japanese immigrants that were in the US at the time were working and middle class. So a lot of the conceptions of Japanese cuisine in America at the time was that it was poor people's food. And then in the mid-1900s, less working class and poor Japanese immigrants were allowed into the US. Japan rose as an economic power, and the Japanese immigrants that did come into the US were managers and entrepreneurs. This meant that instead of Japanese cuisine being mostly contained in ethnic neighborhoods and cities, more high-end Japanese restaurants were moving into downtown cores. And this is how Japanese cuisine rose in prestige and value in the eyes of the American public. And sushi became a poster child for this change. Sushi in Japan in the 1900s had moved from street carts to fine dining establishments with the advent of modern refrigeration, and it really spread and became a lot more popular. And though sushi restaurants started to pop up in the United States in the 60s, it wasn't until the 80s that we saw a big sushi boom. Ginza Sushiko by Masa Takeyama opened in 1987, and it originally catered mostly to Japanese people. But it quickly gained notoriety in LA as being one of the most expensive places to dine. And it was really a place for people who were in the know about food. And all of this is one of the reasons why people get sushi on Valentine's Day. It became known as this high-end, exotic experience that you could impress a date with. And even over the decades, as sushi has made its way back to its fast food roots by being in grocery store deli counters, it's still seen as this special experience, easy to share with somebody, and something that people just don't make for themselves.